Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 60 of the new Build Your Stash and Craft. Today we are going to do stamped collage, and I am going to show you how to layer your stamps up so that they're not all jumbled up and overlapping in ways that you can't really tell what they are. So it's like layered stamping or stacked stamping. And so what you're going to need to do is just pick out some of your stamps, have some of your ink. I did paint up our paint pad here with a couple of colors of paint. And all of this is a very thin sponge. This is a drying mat from the Dollar Tree. We got these way back towards the beginning. And I chose some apple barrel parakeet and flamingo red. So so I just put those on there, and you just put them on and use any kind of a plastic card to spread them out nicely, work it down into the sponge so that you don't have paint sitting on top of your paint pad. And this is just like an ink pad, except it's a lot bigger. So because large ink pads are very expensive, this is a way that you can have a pad that's going to do a large area, and yet you don't have to buy a great big ink pad. So what we're going to do is we're going to need some masks, and a mask is something that will cover whatever you don't want to get paint or ink on. And so we're going to mask up, and I have a bunch here already. These are my masks. So I have a mask for this one. I have 6 of them, and I have some of the I have 3 of the loves. And I have this one and that one, and these are here, and I have the hearts, and I have this just miscellaneous stamp, and our postage cancellation part. And so those things we will use as we're stamping to cover up what we've stamped. And I'll just show you how to do that. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can do this. And one way will give you like an aura around whatever you have stamped. And the other way will make it look much closer. So, and that just depends on how close you trim them when you cut them out. So we'll need our masking tape that we have in our stash for this also. Now this is just a label, the background of what a label was. You can use your sticker backgrounds. I've told you to keep those, like when you use up all your stickers, keep that background, because you can use that to put your own washi tape on. You can use it to put these on, because we're going to put masking tape on the back. So sticker backgrounds. This was when I sent out a package. This was the back of the label when you peel it off. And or like if you have your return address labels, you know, they come on this type of paper. If you don't have it, you can use plastic or parchment, but this just works really nice because it's so made to release. So I have a couple more that I haven't done yet, just to show you how to do them. And so I'm just going to take this piece and grab another color of ink. Now these are ink pads that we made ourselves, and remember, if they are all dried out, you can put just a couple of squirts of the hand sanitizer, or just a couple of drops, and work that in, and that will reconstitute your ink pad that we made. So we're just going to get some ink on here. I'm really not going to worry about how much I have on here, because we just need the outline of our stamp. So I have one, so I'll do one more. Well, we'll do 2 of them. And if you have a lot of ink on your stamp, you can just keep stamping off until you can't see the edges anymore. If you want to do quite a few, like I have 5 or 6 of all of these, because we're going to do a collage sheet. And so I want more than one stamp on our paper, and you'll see that when when we get to working on this. So we'll just cover that up. Set it over there. Okay. So then what you're going to do is, in order to make it look like these stamps are layered right on top of each other, to me, the best way to do it is to cut out right on the edge of your stamp. Now, you want to take your time because you can use these over and over again. So you don't want to cut off part of your stamp, because if you do, when you mask over what you've stamped on your paper, it's going to overlap your colors. So get as close as you can so that when you mask it, you can just put it right on top of what you've already stamped. And a mask is something that covers up your paper so that whatever you're doing next, whether it's splattering paint or stamping on top of it or painting on top of it, that will not get on what you have already stamped. But again, like I said, if you cut into your stamped area, what's going to happen is, if I had cut this straight off, if I stamp or splatter or anything on top of what I stamped on my paper, that's going to get on whatever's not covered up. So you want to make sure that you can cover it up really closely when you're trying to layer stamp. And so we're just going to finish cutting this one up, and then I am going to, there we go, I'm going to cut one with an edge on it. To show you what it's like to have the halo around. And so I'm just leaving a big area around the edge. Then when you're splattering or painting on top of, or whatever it is you're doing, that is not going to get on this area around the edge. And so it will leave like a halo around your stamp. So once you do that, I'll do one too that, I'm going to cut off part of my stamp. So I'm cutting off, and it's just a little bit because this stamp doesn't. So, but I'm going to just really cut off some of my stamp to show you what happens, why you want to cut as close to your edge as possible without taking off a bunch. Or I'm even going to cut off more here on the bottom, to show you what happens if you cut off too much. So this is cutting off too much. This is leaving extra, and then this one is as close as I could get. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take some of your masking tape and just roll it around. And you can use regular tape, masking tape, whatever you have. If you have a low-tack tape, that works good also. But if you don't have a low-tack tape, you're going to tape it with the regular tape right to your mask. And then we're going to make this low tack, because when we tape this onto our project, we don't want it to rip our paper. So what we're going to do is we're just going to just take that and make it so that it's not as tacky. I normally will just take it and put it on my shirt or my pants, because it picks up a little bit of the lint or fibers from whatever you're putting it on, so that it's not as sticky, because we want it to stay where we put it, but we don't want it to stay there forever. You know, we're going to take it off, and so when we take it off, we do not want to rip our paper. So we're just going to, that one doesn't have one yet. We're just going to put this on here to hold it where it needs to stay. And you can put the regular tape right on your mask, because you want it to stick to that forever. And then we are just going to try and make that low tack. And then to store them, I just put them on the nonstick paper so that I can use them again and again and again. So what I've done here to show you the difference of how things look is we are going to, I folded my paper in half, and I'm going to do the same on the top and the bottom, one with masking and one without masking to kind of show you how it looks. So we'll go ahead and if these pads are really small and you have a larger stamp, you can just pick up your pad and take it to your stamp that way. You can also put just a little bit of maybe a dot of glue on there or some masking tape to hold it in place. There were a lot of good ideas when we made these pads that people suggested. Put that there. So I'm gonna kind of try and duplicate top and bottom as close as possible. So, well, that wasn't very good. And so we'll just do the same on the top and the bottom. Okay. So those weren't the best, but that's all right. And what did I do with here we go. Let's see if I can get just a little more. And the thing about whenever you're stamping, no matter what you're using for ink or paint or whatever, if you put it on there and let it sit for a second, let that color soak into your paper versus just putting it down and pulling it right back up again. There, that's a little bit better. Okay, so we've got that. And now whatever you want to be basically on the top of your stamping, that's what you're going to put down first when you are layer stamping up like this. And so then let's say we want to, and I'm going to use my markers for color, and we've got our paint pad for color, and we've got our ink pads for color, just to show you different ways that you can stamp if you don't have ink pads. These are all things that we have made. So if you have kids watercolor markers, and you just do this, and then you can just breathe on it. And so we're going to stamp on this E here. Now down here we're going to we're going to put our mask on here. So we're going to take our regular, this is our one that is cut to pretty much the exact size, and we're going to put that on there. It's got a little bit of sticky underneath so it will stay, because we're going to leave that the whole time that we are stamping. And so again, kids watercolor markers work really well for stamping. And then we're going to stamp on this one. Now I'm not going to show you exactly what it looks like until we're done. And that way you can, get the full effect of what's going on. So let's go ahead and let's put some of this on here. We'll use some blue. I'm not going to use the love stamp again because I've got the piece on there, so that's good. So I'm just going to take some of this and put a couple of stamps on here. And again, just trying to make my top and bottom approximately the same. And really, you shouldn't really like double stamp, because you never know what's going to happen if you do that. But so let's put this here, and we're going to put a mask on this one. If I can find one, here we go. So we'll just take one of these masks and put it right on there, covering it up as best as we can. And we also are going to put a mask on here. And so these are cut very closely, so they're just covering, they're only covering what we want covered, not a whole bunch extra. There won't be a halo around it. It should layer up very well. So let's do, I really like this one. And so let's put this one right on there. And right there. Now see, as we're stamping here, the colors are overlapping and you're seeing that color from underneath. I'll put one of these here. So we'll just do a couple more and then we'll put the background on. As you layer these, when you take off your mask, they're going to look like whatever you stamped first is on the top, and the things that you stamped after that are underneath. So now we're going to, on the bottom here, we'll cover them up and not on the top. Okay, we'll put a couple of hearts on here. And also I have a soft box underneath. When you're stamping, you should stamp on a pretty solid surface so that it doesn't, so your surface doesn't bend. Do the same thing up here. And this is just a really fun way to do cards. When you're making cards, it's really fun for that. It works great for if you're wanting to put things in your journals. Okay. And of course, I'm going to do what I said don't do. Okay, let me get rid of that. And so on the bottom, we'll put a mask, and on the top, we won't. So now let's say this is as much as we want. And then we want the background to be colored, like that one. So now I promised that I would show the background stamp that we made a few weeks ago. And so we're going to put the background stamp on here. And I'm going to use, because it's a lot bigger, I am going to use my paint pad. Scooch this over here. And we are just going to try and get that paint onto our pad. Give it a check, especially whenever you're doing a large stamp pad. Always give it a check to kind of see if you got every area or not. So I'm going to just line this up on the bottom. Make sure that you make contact everywhere. You're not pressing hard. You're just making sure that that ink pad or the stamp touches everywhere on your paper. Now also we could have put this background on the top section before we started with our other stamp so that it looked like it was underneath, but it's still, because these are light colored stamps, they still would have the color from my background would have shown through all of my stamps. Making sure that it touches everywhere. And there we go. And then we'll do it. I'm going to stamp off here real quick. And then we'll put some red on the other side. And when you make your own, when you're making your own paint pads, you can always make your color any size that you want. So you could make it exactly the size of this so that it would color it better. I'm kind of at a loss for words today. Oh, now we're just going to get a little bit more color for the top. Put that up there. And then because we have a blank in the middle, we will use one of our, that one fit? Yeah, these are border stamps that we did. So let's use markers for that one. And what color shall we do? We'll do orange and yellow. They're probably going to mix with the blue that I've got on here, but we'll just do it anyways. Yep, definitely it's mixing with that blue. Whenever you use your markers and you get another color on it, just make sure that you color it off before you put it away so that color doesn't really soak into the pad. This is a pad right here. Really got that on there. Okay, I'll try and take care of that later. Just breathing on that. You could also spritz it with some water. Especially the larger your stamp when you're coloring with your kids' colors, the quicker that can dry. Okay, so there we go. Now we have a whole piece of paper collaged. We have our top half, which looks like that, and our bottom half pretty much looks the same. But now we're going to start taking off the masks. And instead of having a heart with the colors on top and kind of looking a little jumbled, we have a heart that's just a heart. And so this is how you can collage with your stamps. When you see like papers at the craft store or whatever, where like things are layered nicely, you know, they're not over top of each other. This is basically kind of the way that it's done. So last off, there we go. And so now you have this option if you're just stamping on top of each other, or this option where everything shows up nicely. See, it looks like this is behind the piece. Looks like this is coming out from behind it because you put this down first. Whatever you put down first will look like it's on the top. That kind of doesn't make sense, but that is the way it works. And then when you mask it, because it cuts it off at the line of that first stamp, it looks like it's coming from underneath. And see, this is a nice way to, oh, I forgot to put down a background or whatever. What am I going to do for a background? This is a nice way to be able to stamp on top of what you've already got there and not cover it up like this, like here. You can't really see this at all. And, you know, this is very covered. It just, you know, it just doesn't look so good. So this is the way to stamp a collage, and it turns out, as far as I'm concerned, really beautifully. Now I'll show you really quickly what I was talking about with the halo. Let me just grab this piece here. So we'll do the piece again. If I can find what I did with it. Because that's the one, here it is, because that's the one, no, I'm looking for the stamp. Okay, there's one of our masks. There's a mask. Okay, these are the 3 masks we did. One with the halo, one that's too small, and one that's just on the correct edges. So we've got those 3, and here's the piece stamp. All right, I'm going to use the paint pad to put this on here. Oh, the box is really bent right there. And when I rinse my paint pads, I don't rinse them in the sink. There's a lot of paint in there. Even if you feel you've used it all up, I rinse it in a basin. We bought a plastic basin earlier in the series. And then a lot of times what I'll do is, if the color comes out nice, now this is going to pretty much kind of come out brown when I rinse this, because green and red kind of make brown. But I rinse it really well in there, wring it out. There's water in there that's now colored. And then I take some of my paper and I dye my paper with what's in there. And I normally just take what's left and either dump it in some kitty litter so that it will clump up and you can throw it away, or toss it outside. Okay, so now we have 3 stamps. Now we're going to put these on here. We'll just start with, we'll put the halo in the middle. Just kind of want to make sure that I really have it on the middle. We'll take the one that's not big enough and put it there. And we'll take the one that's cut pretty much to the correct size and put it there. Now we're going to stamp on that with our background stamp so you can really see what that does. To show you the difference between the 3. Okay. So these are the 3 ways you can do it. And this is not wrong to cut it too small and have some of it be on your color. It's just different. So the one that's too small, now our stamping that we did on top of it comes onto our peace sign wherever we had cut it too small. The one that we cut larger now has a halo all the way around it. So, you know, it keeps that back away from whatever we stamped. And there's a lot of times where I like to do that. And then the one that is cut exactly, the background comes right up to the edge. So those are the 3 ways that you can cut your masks to get a little bit of a different look with them. So I think that that's pretty much everything about masking when you're stamping that I have to tell you. But you know, just the reason for doing it is, even with this one, you know, with having it on the edges doesn't look too bad, but here where it covers it up completely, not good, you know. And I mean, even where we got a real color difference here, still it doesn't look as good. That stamp in the background that I liked where I put it, now it's all covered up and looks really funny. The strip that runs down the middle, which is not as noticeable because we got real light right here, but you know, it's covering up part of our stamp, where here our stamp is very nice and clear. You know, you can see what it says, you can see. And if you have a stamp that has like a verse or something on it, you can still mask. Just take that stamp, stamp it, and then just cut out around that verse as close to the lettering as you can. And then the verse itself, the whole thing will be whatever the background color is, and your extra color will only go around it. So you'll see a lot of times where someone is splattering paint and they don't want to get paint on something, and they'll just really quickly just take a piece of paper and they'll just rip that paper and kind of put it on top of where they don't want to get splatters. And then when they're done, they'll take that off so that there's no splatters in that area. That's masking. So I really do appreciate each and every one of you. I hope that this helped you in figuring out how you can layer up your stamps, you know, without having to stamp it, cut it out, and glue it on top of your background. So because this, even if I had stamped this on top of my background, the background still would have shown through. Stamping it on top would not have made a difference. So, you know, it would have just been color layered upon color, and it makes it a little bit more muddy and a lot harder to tell what's going on. So thank you very much for stopping by. Share me with your friends. If you like my channel, please share my channel with your friends. I appreciate each and every one of you stopping by, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.